come over here. I probably don't need to do this, my voice carries. Good evening, everybody. Members of Unified School District number 231 and citizens of Gardner. Welcome to Gardner City Hall, and thank you all for coming to the group work session between Gardner City Council and Unified School District and the school board. I just wanted to start by saying I thought it was a good time to bring everybody together. The last time that the two boards gathered was March of 2011, and since then I want to say 57% of the board on the Board of Education has turned over, and 80% of the City Council has turned over, with only Christy Harrison still remaining, and there's a new mayor. So it seemed like with the opening of the BNSF intermodal facility and the KC Logistics Park, that maybe this would be a good time for the two groups to get together, share some light refreshments, and a little conversation about the future of Gardner and our school district. We're here at a really great time, as both organizations are award-winning organizations. We've got award-winning members on our staff, including our finance and accounting department, which has been recognized 9 straight years. We're Tree City USA for how long, Jeff? 10 straight years. And of course, you can't finish a school year without seeing one of the Gardner Edgerton schools being recognized on a state or national level. So we're here working with a couple of groups that, while not always appreciate it necessarily, are certainly performing at a high level. Since 1990, when the population in Gardner was just under 3,200, the city's grown 537% as of, well, last July, when they did the last estimate. And we're poised to continue to grow. And Cheryl Harrison Lee, our city administrator, who wasn't here last time that the two organizations got together, is going to talk to you all a little bit later about what it is that we're going to be doing as far as our city vision or comprehensive plan. And I'm hoping that we can spend a little bit of time talking together about other ways that we're going to be able to cooperate to help move the city and the school district forward. So with that being said, I want to take a couple minutes, allow the council members to introduce themselves, allow the Board of Education members to introduce themselves, allow the city staff to introduce themselves, as well as the staff from USD 231 that's here. And then we'll move on to presentations. But I'll start really quickly. I'm Chris Morrow, Mayor of Gardner. I have been a employment professional almost all my adult life, and now I'm an online marketing strategist and business development manager. And with that, Tori, you want to kick things off, and we'll work our way around the table.
Okay. Sorry. I'm Tori Roberts, Gardner City Council. I lived in Gardner since 2004, and most recently I was on the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals, and I recently got appointed to the City Council, and I'm very excited about the future of Gardner and just happy to be here.
I'm Steve Shute. I've served with the Gardner City Council. I was elected in this year, actually, this past April. I'm an IT systems professional, been involved in IT mostly in healthcare and insurance for the last 23 years. I have 3 children in the Gardner Edgerton School District, one in the high school, one in the middle school, and one in the elementary school. So As you can imagine, educational issues and USD 231 are very important to me, and I'm sure they're important to everybody in Gardner, because we are all interested in a quality education and balancing that against city priorities. So I am likewise interested in seeing what comes out of this.
Christy Harrison, been on the Gardner City Council almost 4 years, appointed about 3.5 years ago, and then recently elected in April. Lived in Gardner since 1997, worked in the telecommunications industry for almost 22 years. And I have a daughter who is 21 and a proud graduate of Gardner Edgerton High School. So understand the benefits and the greatness of our school district.
You're not going to go again, right?
No, I'm not going to go.
I'm just trying to think of what I was going to say.
Come on, Larry.
I'm Larry Fodovich. I've been on the council since 2011. I was elected then. I've lived here since 1998. We have a 6th grader at Pioneer Ridge, and a freshman and junior at the high school. And I'm a real estate broker and realtor.
My name is Heath Freeman. I was appointed to the council in early 2012, so a little over a year now, a year and a half, I guess. We've been in Gardner for 7 years. My wife actually works at the high school. My boy's in 1st grade at Madison, so probably was in the district. And in my other job, I suppose, I am work for a publishing company in the sales arena.
I'm Bill Gilhouse. I'm the superintendent for the school district. I'm beginning my 10th year, and I have lots of information to share with you later, so I'll save my comments at this time. But it's good to see everyone.
My name is Teresa Bowden. I am one of the newest members of the school board. I've lived in Gardner since 1999. As you can all see by my attire, I work in the medical profession. I work in the NICU. So I just got off work, but I have 3 children that have gone through the Gardner School District. One currently still in 5th grade, and the other 2, I have a sophomore in college and a freshman in college. So kind of know what that's about a little bit.
I'm Mary Nelson. I was just appointed at the same time earlier this month to the school. Lifelong area resident. Gone to school here myself. My kids, one has graduated, the other one is a senior this year. Been in banking for 25 plus years.
I'm Brad Chandler. I've been serving just since this year in July, and I've been living in Gardner since 2005. I have one young son in elementary school in Gardner also, and I work as an automotive technician.
I'm Mark Brunell. We have 3 kids that have gone through the district, and the youngest one will be graduating from K-State this year. So we'll be finally empty nesters, and everybody's off the payroll, which is nice. We've been here since 1989. It's my 6th year on the board, and I run a small public company.
I'm James Repshire, and like Mark, I've lived in the community since 1989. I feel like I'm a little bit of a foreigner or an infiltrator here. I'm the only Edgerton representative, but I've been on the board for 14 years, and I make a living doing sales.
I'm Mary Herbert, and I'm a long-term board member. I've been in this community most of my life. I'm an alumni of Gardner, my daughter, my husband, so it's pretty much my story.
Good afternoon, Cheryl Harrison Lee, City Administrator. 14 months ago, East Coast came to the Midwest from a state of 1 season, Orlando, Florida, and to a state that understands more than 1 season. Been in local government since 5, about 29 years, and I have some things to share with you about where the city is going, so I'll save it for a few minutes.
I'm Jeremy McFadden, Director of Business Appointments at the school district, and going on 14 months.
I'm Christy Ziegler, Executive Director of Educational Services, and this is my 9th year with the school district.
Good evening, Jerry Cullenberg, the Chief of Police for the Gardner County Police Department here. I've been here this June, so I'm one of the new kids on the block in comparison to everyone else. And so far, Cheryl's not packed my bags and set it out in front of the station, so I think things are going okay.
I'm Brian Bowles. I'm the Director of Public Works for the City of Gardner. Been here a few months today.
I'm Mike Hall. I'm the Community Development Director for Gardner. Been here since February.
Jeff Stewart. I'm responsible for fun and games for the city. I guess I'm the veteran of the group. I've been here as the Parks and Recreation Director for about 14 years, except for Miss Laura. I have 2 children that are in the school district. My daughter is a sophomore at the high school, and my son is a 6th grader at Pioneer Ridge Middle School. And I've served for a number of years on the school district's facility and planning committee.
I'm Laura Crowley, Finance Director for the City of Gardner. We're in our 4th generation of Gardner community and 3rd generation through the Gardner school system, and I will soon be here 25 years. Even though I'm only 26 years old.
Started at 5 too.
I can't help that, but I'm Mary Bush. I'm the Administrative Services Manager for the City of Gardner. I have been with the city 7 years. We have lived in the City of Gardner for 12.
I'm Kimberly Leroy. I recently started in August here. Before that, I worked for Johnson County District Attorney's Office. I have 4 kids. My oldest is in college, and my youngest, both of them are in middle school right now.
I'd like to amend my presentation. I forgot to say my wife's a 2nd grade teacher at Madison.
Important.
So amended.
Is it possible people can speak up? It's really very, very difficult to hear, especially with facts and things too. It's not everyone to miss anything.
Well, if you all can, please. Not everybody's got my booming voice, but when you have an opportunity to speak, if you could, please speak up. We do have people in the audience. Speaking of, I wanted to mention we've got Jennifer Gilmore here, who is new to the Planning Commission, but also a school district employee. So, welcome, Jennifer. And welcome, everybody, and thank you. I know that Cheryl's got some information that she has prepared, so I'm going to let her take over.
Well, greetings everyone. Again, very pleased to be able to have an opportunity to share some of the things that the city is going to be embarking upon over the course of the next 12 months. I learned early in life, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And I'll have to share a story about kind of how I learned this from my dad, who kind of believed in providing advice and getting us to see the value of his advice without discipline with fear. So one day he told me something that I didn't realize how much when he told me this, that it would apply not just to my personal life, but to my professional life. And he shared with me a story about 2 students in college. One was studying to be a doctor, and he had a great desire to be a doctor for a very long time. The other student was one who was there simply because his parents insisted that he go. No purpose, no direction, no goals. The student with no purpose was basically taking classes to just kind of stay there 4 years and get through. After about the sophomore year, he said to his roommate, who was there studying to be a doctor, he said, every time we go out partying, you tell us you have to study. You probably want to consider taking some of the classes we're taking. We'll take art, we take history, we take fun things so we can go out and study for a little bit and go out and party. The student who was studying to be a doctor said, sorry, those courses won't get me where I'm going. So, watch me in 30 years. Let's see where you end up and where I end up. Today, that student is Dr. Ben Carson, who is one of the best pediatric neurosurgeons in the world. So I share that with you today because much like our personal lives, in our professional lives, and with our organizations, we must have goals, focus, and vision, and we must determine where we're going. So I'm going to talk a little bit for the next few minutes about where the City of Gardner is going and kind of some of the things that we're going to be doing to get there. First thing I'd like to talk about is something that was written in a book called The Great American City. And its title was Successful Cities and What Makes Vibrant or Successful Cities. They have two key things: identifiable neighborhoods and a viable downtown. The components of the strong neighborhoods include affordable housing, second, supplies, great schools, an appropriate balance of residential and non-residential development, and local parks and recreation facilities. For a viable downtown, it's important to have a source of entertainment, surviving retail businesses and professional businesses, and also major headquartered corporations. Successful cities also have university, cultural, or tourist activities. They have curb appeal through a clean, safe environment. They also have a large or emerging professional population. They have youth. They have people in their peak earning years so that they are able to provide income and disposable spending income to the businesses in the community. And they have strong public-private partnerships. They also capitalize on the city's uniqueness. So it's important to kind of decide what the niche is and carve out that niche and try to focus on a specific niche. And understanding kind of how that city fits in the metropolitan area. Is it a bedroom community? Is it a thriving business community? Kind of understanding how it fits in. And finally, successful cities have a city government that operates efficiently and effectively and diversified revenue. So, why talk about kind of what successful cities have? First and foremost, it's important to talk about that because the strength of a community is tied to its academic component. And as the community grows and prospers, so does the school district. As the school district grows and prospers, so does the community. So let's talk about the history and growth of the community. The mayor mentioned earlier that the City of Gardner has experienced tremendous growth. From little less than 2,400 in 1980 to almost 20,000 in 2010. Last census, we were one of the top 3 cities in the state of Kansas that experienced rapid growth at about 6%, just topping over 20,000. Now, the update of the master plan indicated that by 2020, we'll have 40,000 residents. Even if those estimates are wrong and we get half of that number, we'll have 30,000. So we will see a tremendous amount of growth in this community. One of the things we did last year was we started chamber meet and greets to start the community visioning process. We met with various representatives from the local business community, and we asked them to rate the city, to tell us how we were doing in terms of our relationships with the business community. We asked them to answer questions like the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats we had, to talk about kind of the image that we had as a city. And as you might guess, we got a laundry list of many things. So he said to them, let's prioritize them and see if we can perhaps work on some things to achieve them. So in asking them to prioritize the list of items they identified, they told us, we really need a vision, a mission statement, and a strategic plan. The business community also said, we have great assets here, we've got great schools, we've got great parks and recreation facilities, but it's just too hard to do business here. So we must be more business friendly. They also indicated we needed to accept and kind of focus on growth. Well, after meeting with the business community, we convened an economic development panel. And we asked those experts to talk to us about how we might position the city for economic development. And they told us the key things that development community, if they're going to locate a business here, would look for. They told us we must have a ready workforce. We must have infrastructure in place for development. We were told about the strength of our central location and our good transportation network with having 2 interchanges as well as a 3rd one that has recently opened in close proximity. They talked about the amount of land that we have. If you look at the land that's available around the city, it's almost 15,000 acres that could be possibly annexed. And they told us about the affluence and investments that we have overall in Johnson County. As a result of gathering input from the business community and our economic development experts, we began to take a close look at the efficiency and the effectiveness of our internal organization. So we began the process with a much more transparent and accountability-driven budget. So we went to what's known in the city management world as best practices of priority-based budgeting. And so we had a goal-setting session with the council, and we asked them to identify the strategic goals. And what we heard from council were 4 things. Promoting economic development, the need to have diversity in our land use mix so that we create a more healthy balance between residential and non-residential development, which would help alleviate some of the tax burden for our residents. I'm going to come back to number 2. Fiscal stewardship. We talked about making sure that we are good stewards of the resources that our taxpayers provide for us to provide services. And then infrastructure and asset management. Looking at IT, being able to be more customer focused, being able to get our IT operations up to date, as well as looking at our capital projects, sidewalks, our roadways. If we complete economic development, fiscal stewardship, and infrastructure development, we will affect number 2, which is improving the quality of life for our residents. So as part of the adoption of the budget this year, they funded a few key projects that I'm going to touch on under the economic development strategies, quality of life, and infrastructure and asset management. The first one is the comprehensive plan. The governing body funded an $85,000 study, which would be the blueprint for success. The comprehensive plan is going to be that tool that establishes where we are, where we're going, what it takes to get there, supported by the Land Development Code, which will determine or establish the tools that will be used to get there. The economic development strategy. We are looking at developing a strategic plan for economic development. Understanding that the City of Gardner has received much criticism for saying no to lots of things. And that's insignificant at this point. What's really important at this point is what will we as a city say yes to, and what are the terms and conditions that will say yes to that development. So we started the journey of getting a RFP developed for the comprehensive plan and selecting a consultant to do that. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit on the comprehensive plan and how we see that as a partnership opportunity for the school board. The comprehensive plan was originally adopted in 2003 and it was updated in 2008. The consultant that was selected to do the plan in 2013 is based out of Chicago. It's Housel Levine and Associates. They are an American Planning Association award-winning firm. They are award-winning because their emphasis has been on civic engagement, which is the planning jargon for citizen involvement. It just sounds better, I guess, in 2013. So everybody in the planning world is talking about civic engagement. It's talking about getting residents involved. So we selected them, and they will be kicking off in about 2 weeks the effort to get a citizen advisory committee involved to help guide the vision. The scope of the work: project initiation, developing the scope, which we've done, meeting with staff, coming up very shortly, the community outreach effort. CPAC, you'll probably hear that being thrown around here fairly soon, which is Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee, which is fancy label for citizens who are helping drive and guide and direct the vision of the city. They will do an existing condition analysis. They will look at the strengths and weaknesses of the city. They will look at our assets, look at what we have here in terms of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A little bit of a SWOT analysis. Then they will work with the citizens, businesses, school board members, faith-based community, and other community partners to develop a community vision, to develop goals and objectives. We talked about how important it is to have a vibrant downtown. So we'll look at a downtown sub-area plan. And then we'll look at kind of the community-wide plans and policies. And the reason why we need to look at community-wide plan and policies, because we need to have some decisions on what's our stance on protecting established neighborhoods. What's our stance on commercial development? Where should it be? How tall? Looking at height. What should it look like? Design standards. What's our stance on industrial development, office development? Are we annexing or are we not annexing? Are we growing? Are we controlling growth? So there will be a lot of key decisions that we'll be looking at as part of these community-wide policies throughout this process. They'll package it all together, put together a plan document that will go through a public hearing process for adoption by the governing body. I want to talk a few minutes about partnerships, because we believe that we have had some good partnerships with the school board, with the most recent one at Grand Street, as well as our resource offices. And we recently have a school crossing guard contract that the council approved that we believe will provide a lot more consistency and a little bit higher level of service to the school district in getting our kids to and from school safely. There are some future partnerships that hopefully we'll have an opportunity to examine this evening. Looking at fiber and Google coming to the area. CPAC, TEST, what's that one again? Fancy word for citizens involved in the comprehensive planning effort. We have a couple of festivals that we do, or opportunities to look at sponsorships. We combine our efforts. We have the opportunity to look at how we might get more corporate sponsorship. Sidewalk construction. There are grants that are available for safe routes to school there are opportunities for us to partner to look at safe routes to school with the school board and the city through partnerships, as well as traffic signals. So what's the next piece? And kind of why do we talk about this? It's very important for us to have strategic partnerships with the school district, the business community, and the region. We believe that it is through these partnerships that we can develop a better Gardner. So where do we go from here? What's the next piece of the puzzle? It's greater collaboration. It is through those efforts of collaboration that we have an opportunity to create for the city of Gardner a competitive advantage, sustained economic development, strong neighborhoods, improved infrastructure, efficient and effective government for both of our organizations, and increased recreation and open space. Gardner is truly a city with a great past and an even brighter future, and we look forward to an opportunity to work with the school board staff to create a place that our residents continue to be proud to call home. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much for the overview. I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity for both of our teams to work together. In terms of the next piece in the collaboration, could you talk about the efforts that are maybe underway? We know intermodal is going to have an impact, and that it's going to drive some of the growth that you spoke of. Can you talk about some of the collaboration that might be underway with like Edgerton and the county in terms of maybe lowering the tax abatements for the intermodal development that's going on, so we have more of a not I would say competitive piece, but more of a uniform position in terms of that growth. Could you speak to that?
Well, I think that having you all here today was a really good idea, especially when we're talking about the getting ready to launch on the comprehensive plan and forming an advisory committee. And last spring, we had a little get-together out in Edgerton where county officials, state officials, Edgerton, Gardner, and some school board members, I remember Dr. Ziegler was there, we're all in attendance, just a little getting to know you. But I think that going forward, we probably need to have some group meetings between all three organizations. And the school board is impacted substantially by the deals that the cities make that you're subject to, and everybody, especially since the economic downturn in 2008, has been watching their bottom line, and I think that you need to express what that does to you as a school district, as well as to us, as well as to the folks in Edgerton, so that maybe we can be working together instead of always competing and driving the abatements up.
Yeah.
So I think that I think we were hoping more to talk about the comprehensive plan this evening, but I think I think that the governing body and down in Edgerton is willing to do more of what we did earlier this year as far as get-togethers.
No, I appreciate that. When we talk about the comprehensive plan, that's kind of where the question was going, because we can't ignore what's next door to us, and as a district, we're greatly impacted by the decisions made of the communities. Abatements is one issue. I mean, we know more than anyone would love to see business growth. And we applaud the desire to create the environment to enrich that. So that's why I couldn't agree with you more that, working with them, and I think we're probably going to have to include the county because they're on the other side of us. And so, we definitely have an opportunity to impact that. So I would welcome, future discussions around that if possible.
But you're suggesting that we lower the abatements. I think I heard you say that, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, we gain better, economic results for the district from that approach. but there's a fine balance that is recognized between incenting growth with businesses moving to town and the abatements given. I mean, we understand that. But what we don't want to see is where we get into a bidding war between the county and the two cities. That's a lose-lose proposition.
Mark, I'm completely in agreement with you on that. I think one of the biggest problems we've got is that there is competition between municipalities in Johnson County. That's the reason why the abatements are so high. That we're having this same issue right now with property managers and with developers that are trying to leverage the cities of Edgerton and Gardner against each other to see which kind of what the best deal they can get with regard to their tax burden. And it hurts everybody. It hurts the county, it hurts the cities, it hurts the school district, obviously, because those revenues aren't there. And we want to be able to leverage commercial development to take the burden off of the tax-paying citizens, the residents, because they're getting hammered right now with taxes, and we want to get that down. So I think we've got the same goal here.
Okay, good. No, I just, and I appreciate the overview on the comprehensive plan, because I think we're mutually aligned there. It's just, I wanted to kind of put that out there as a discussion point for the future of, we have to include more than just the two parties at the table today, I think, to really enrich it.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? We're going to have an opportunity for a little more discussion about that later. We might even double back around to it. But at this point, Dr. Gilhouse, the podium is yours.
Well, I'd like to thank the mayor, city council members, Cheryl, our new city manager, for hosting this event. When I talked with the mayor earlier in the week, I thought it might be beneficial, since we have so many new city council members and new administration here with the city of Gardner, that it might be beneficial to just share a little bit about the school district and give an oversight. I realize that a lot of the focus of the city right now is in a future vision. Back that up one. And our vision is pretty simple for the school district. It's the pursuit of excellence. And the way that we came up with that term is parents want an excellent education for their children. So we try to provide excellent facilities, excellent technology, excellent curriculum, ensure that our students perform well academically, excellent extracurricular opportunities, and most importantly, try to hire the very, very best, most highly competent staff that we can. Because people are the lifeblood of an organization. It's great to have a beautiful school, it's wonderful to have a ribbon cutting, but it's the people that are inside that school that provide the caring, nurturing, educational environment for our children. So that is what our pursuit is, excellence. And I hope that I can share a few things with you to show a little bit of how we have tried to achieve excellence over the past 10 years. And I'll share with you right now, I'm not used to standing in one place. I'm normally moving around with a pointer, so I'll do my best to stay centered here. But here's some information about our state assessments. We provide state assessments in grades 3 through 8, and at the high school. We call that opportunity to learn, and Dr. Ziegler can answer questions about that if you should have any a little bit later. You can see the years over the far left. The N stands for the number of students that were tested, so that's another demonstration of the growth that has occurred. Meets the standard, that's No Child Left Behind. As you're aware, our president wanted all students, 100%, every student, to be able to read at grade level and perform mathematics at grade level by 2013-14. You can see that we have 96% of our students meeting the standard in reading and 97% of our students meeting the standard in math. One of the challenging aspects of No Child Left Behind is it is truly what it says, no child left behind. EL students are English language learners. Now let me put this in perspective. We have students that may move to our community at the beginning of the year and they speak no English. They could be from Laos, they could be from Mexico, they could be from China. They understand no English, and yet our state expects them to perform at their grade level by the time we administer the state assessments in the spring, February, March, and April. And I have to tell you, our staff and our administration do an incredible job. 96% of our English language learners are proficient in reading, and 100% of them are proficient in math. Special education, they have the same expectations placed on them. 91% of the special education are proficient in reading, and 94% in math. And again, that just goes to the work that our staff and administration put in for our students. This is another graph that just exemplifies the growth that has occurred over the last 10 years. You can see where we were back in 2000, 01, and 02 as a district in reading. And now all of our schools are up pretty much at the 90th percentile or above. Here's a graph that demonstrates math. As you can see, our high school back in 2000, 01, 02 were struggling. Under 40% of our kids met the standard in math. Standard of excellence. You can see the number that were awarded, and at the very bottom, the possibilities. And what that means is we administer the reading and the math assessments, grades 3 through 8, and at the high school. And an individual building can be recognized as a standard of excellence, okay? That is the highest award that you can receive. And when you consider and you go back and you see 05, 06, 07, 08, 09, I mean, there were years in every tested area our district achieved the standard of excellence. There's no higher award. Governor Sebelius began, she created an award that was called the Governor's Achievement Award. And that recognizes the top 5% of the schools across the state. There's 293 school districts in the state of Kansas. Top 5%. Our school district, 8 of the 9 buildings or schools have received that award. And just recently, we no longer have standard of excellences. We are restructuring, we being the state, how assessments will be given. So they've created a new distinction called a modeling school district. And our district has received this award in both reading and mathematics. It's the highest designation of performance under the new Kansas assessment system. Reading, we're in the top 10%. We rank 28th out of 293 school districts. Math, top 5%, we rank 11th. Graduation rate. Your children are entering high school. You want to ensure that they graduate and they're prepared to go to college.
Dr. Gilhouse, before we go past this point, I think from a board perspective, at least from my perspective, the thing that you really want to see in terms of the performances is that we achieved a high level, but we've maintained that. And given the fact that we've had reduced state aid over the last 10 years, but we have grown tremendously within the city, we've had to grow the district through the help and the support of our community and the help support of the cities. We've been able to grow our facilities effectively and maintain that testing performance. And that is something I think everybody should really be looking at as a huge indicator of why I think people want to continue to move here. Is because it's one thing to go out there and hit it one year. It's a whole nother level of mentality to keep it and maintain it. So I think from a board perspective, when we say standard of excellence, that is like a standard goal that's become uniform with us, and it's something that we will want to continue to strive for as they test and continue to change the testing every year. Because that's the second point I wanted to make here is every year the state or the government comes in and they tweak something. Whether it be how we do the reading, how we're doing the math, that all gets changed. And if we don't absorb those changes from a district office and administrative level and then filter that down into our teachers and educate the teachers of what they've got to change, you can't perform at these testing levels because the tests change. So we've been able to continue to maintain that, not only through the support of a strong administration, but it just shows you the kind of teacher quality that we've retained and we continue to grow within the district. And from a board perspective, and I hopefully from a community perspective, that is something to be incredibly proud of.
And I appreciate you bringing up the point about the reductions in school finance. Many school districts across the country and almost every state have had reduced funding from the state. However, only 7 states have experienced a reduction of 15% or more. Kansas ranks 4th. We have a 17% reduction at this point in time. So when you consider the challenges that we have had compared to some of the other states, they're much greater financially. Cheryl hit upon our population growth, and of course, as the population of the community grows, that impacts the school district. You can see that back in 2001-2002 school year, we were around 3,100. Our population to date is 5,538 students. Now, I will tell you that changes daily. We have students move in, and we have sometimes students that move out. But that's approximately where we're at today. Let's talk a little bit about our recent bond and the tax implications. But before we talk about the tax implications, you're all aware of Ground Star Elementary. I want to thank the City Council for sharing in that benefit district. You know, by sharing those costs, we were able to create a new road. For those of you that have lived in Gardner for an extended period of time, you know the only road that brought you from Gardner Road to Moonlight or vice versa was 183rd Street. So it's a beautiful street. It really, really is. And we're very, very proud of that building. It's our 7th elementary school. They'll accommodate 500 students. The board, in their wisdom, when this plan was drawn up, they created plans right from the get-go so that this building could be expanded to accommodate another 125 to 150 students. This building opened, as you're aware, in this past fall, or I should say in August, and it came in under budget. That's always a good thing. On time, under budget.
Dr. Gilhouse, one other thing as we look at the front of the school here that I really enjoyed is getting the news as a board member. We had, and this is hats off to the city here, because you created a street that is safe. You've got crossing guards. We had to increase the number of bike racks because we now have more kids riding their bike to this school than we have, I think, in any other elementary. So that's just kind of a testament to, you know, the city really stepping up and making that happen. And I think it's great to see, you know, a bunch of bicycles out in front of a school. Kind of it takes you back, well, me, 25, 30 years, but, you know, I think it's great.
Neighborhood schools are wonderful. We'll open our 3rd middle school next fall. It will accommodate 800 students. Construction will be completed, we hope, by the first week in April, so there'll be no trouble getting all of our technology and the other equipment necessary to open that school. That project is currently under budget. Some people wonder, why do you put those two schools so close together? Campus concept, when you're talking about an elementary and a middle school, is economically advantageous because you're sharing in the cost of the infrastructure and the roads, okay? Another advantage is you can share staff between the two buildings when necessary. The thing I'm really proud about, and I hope the City Council feels the same way, this was a difficult decision on where to locate the schools. You don't have a lot of choices when you look around Gardner. You need a minimum of 12 to 15 acres for an elementary school, approximately 30 for a middle school, and finding that type of space that is available. You have the infrastructure there, or at least close by, the roads, safety concerns, etc. This was 151 acres of cornfield, and we've begun development there. In addition to new schools, when you have additional students, you also have more kids involved in extracurricular activities. So it requires more outside ball fields and more inside gymnasiums. So the multi-activity center was a component of the recent bond. This is what it'll look like when it's completed. Some of you have driven by the high school. You'll know that's the addition going out to the south towards the tennis courts. This gives you just a snapshot of what the inside will look like. It'll have gymnasiums for volleyball, basketball, fitness, and aerobics. And this is where we were as of yesterday morning. We got the steel going up and the roof going on. This will be completed hopefully by the end of March or April of this year. Capital improvements was another aspect of the bond. As you're aware, you have different facilities you have to maintain. You constantly have HVAC issues, you need new carpet, asphalt. Those things have a cost associated with them. Just as an example, just to replace the asphalt at the high school would be $1 million. We replaced the asphalt recently at Sunflower Elementary School. It was approximately $200,000. So it doesn't take long to spend money on maintaining your facilities and keeping them up. We have a renovation plan for Gardner Elementary School that will take place this summer, and also Sunflower Elementary School. Most of you are aware, if you've been to any of the football games, we expanded the district athletic complex. We added approximately 780 seats. Even with that, if you were at the ball game when we played Bishop Miege this last week, the seats were full, and we had stands brought in down by the track at the north end of the stadium where we try to keep the middle schoolers corralled. So space has been well used. Technology improvements, that was a $6 million component of the bond, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ziegler to share with you some information regarding that, and you let me know when you want me to press it to move to the next one.
I will try and project here. I don't know that I'll need the mic, but we did have a number of technology improvements that are underway right now. Most notably in June, we replaced about 2,700 computers district-wide in the month of June. So if you see our technology staff, give them a pat on the back. They worked very hard over the summer. Total, through the bond and other funds of the district, we are in the midst of replacing 2,800 computers, 2,890 to be exact. We also are updating our network and some of our infrastructure. We're completely migrated off of Novell here in the last few months into a wholly Microsoft world. We've updated our operating systems. We've replaced significantly monitors throughout the district to be more energy efficient. We did have aging technology. A lot of our computers and monitor systems that were in our schools, some of them were over 10 years old. And so it is good to get new technology in the classrooms. Our teachers and our students are both very excited to have that. We are also in the process of, we've just completed very recently upgrading our email system, completed Novell, migration off of Novell to Office 365 and Outlook. We implemented a mobile access tool that integrates with our student information system so parents and students can have access on smart technologies, tablets and phones, get access and check whether or not your child's made it to school at the high school level or stayed in class, or whether their lunch balances are where they need to be so that they can buy a lunch in our lunchrooms. Good things to help our community as well. We are in year 2, just entering year 2 of a 3-year technology plan in our state. We are required to maintain a 3-year plan rather than forecasting out longer with technology, and that's the nature of technology. It's difficult to draft a 15-year plan not knowing that 15 years down the road what we're going to be looking at. Go ahead and click. Very excited that right now this school year we launched a BYOD initiative in our high school, Bring Your Own Device. We had 7 brave teachers and a media specialist at our high school that are engaged in that pilot project, and we have the capacity of bringing on 600 students in those classrooms as part of the pilot to see how it works, what pieces are essential to having a Bring Your Own Device project in our schools for our students to bring their own technologies in. That allows us to leverage the technologies that we do have, the mobile access on laptops, so that we can support as many students as possible, all students with access and learning environment. So that is underway, and our Technology Committee and Board of Education will receive updates on that here in the next few months as we continue to collect data off that project. We are in the midst of updating our district website. We have selected a new management system for that website, and we'll launch in November a redesigned district and school website across our district to provide better access to information and easier to manage tools for our personnel to communicate with our communities. And we recently approved an update to our student management system, bringing on additional tools and replacing aging technology for our finance management in our system, as well as human resource, and adding some additional functionality into our student information system. That's the core of our information in our district. Enrollment, which our funding is dependent on having accurate enrollment data, as well as flexibility in reporting when we need information on our human resources and our finance. So those are just a few projects that are underway with support from the bond and also district dollars for technology improvement.
Before we go on here, I think Christy touched on the fact that we got Bring Your Own Device coming into the schools, and I think that's going to be huge for us because kids today are more tech savvy than just about anybody. But Cheryl, the one thing I noticed on one of your presentation slides was the idea of the concept of bringing like Google Fiber. This will definitely be an area where I think we can collaborate together as we expand our technology platform and the city starts looking at that, because we're always going to have kids that have their own, but one of the other things that we're going to be focused on from a district perspective is providing families that are disadvantaged access to that technology, and bringing in like a Google Fiber just will complement what we're trying to do at the district level within the homes and businesses in town, which I think would be great.
scope of the project, which I've shared with you, some of this information from our 2012 bond. I will tell you that it was a difficult decision for the board to make going out for that bond in 2012. I don't think it's any secret about the economic downturn. And the last thing that the Board of Education wanted to do was to put more of a tax burden upon our community. And it's a difficult position to be in. You're running out of space for your students. You're continuing to grow. You want to provide an excellent education. You want to try to keep your class sizes as manageable as possible. And when we put together a committee that consisted of patrons, teachers, and administrators to identify the scope of this bond, that's one aspect of it. But then making a decision to move forward with it, that's a whole different story. And I'm really, really pleased to announce that what we had promised was no tax increase for the first 2 years. And the board and the school district honored that the first year. And this year there was a 3.4 mil decrease. So basically this community at this point in time has $72.9 million worth of new construction for our students, and no tax increase but a decrease. And if our assessed valuation just remains constant, we do not foresee an increase for the next 6 to 7 years. You might be saying, how's that possible? How'd that happen? Well, first of all, there were historic low interest rates on our bonds, and we refinanced some of our bonds. Second, construction costs were extremely low because of the economic downturn. Lastly, because of the finances of our community, the number of students that we have, and yet our assessed valuation is low, so we call that pupil to assessed valuation. 45% of this year is paid for by the state. Jeremy, anything to add to that from a financial perspective?
The only thing I would add is over a 20-year outlook on our maturity schedule, the repayments are flat. It's not like we backloaded the 20-year bond issue with payments towards the back end to try to get into it. It is relatively flat. In fact, next year is the second highest year, and we'll be able to absorb that increased bond payment without an increased ordinance levy. So it's a fairly structured bond.
Yeah, I might add here too, I mean, thanks to the support from the city in putting out that new campus and allowing us to, you know, basically take forward the bond issue and kind of a collaborative effort in getting the support of our community to pass that, we've been able to save enormous amounts of money. I mean, the state aid alone that we got was close to 30% of the total cost, correct?
45% this year.
45%. So
that was 41 last year.
You know, I applaud the support that the patrons gave us as well as the city, because when we can open up facilities at that cost savings, I think long term that will fit very much hand in glove with the development plan that you want to put in place, because we're bringing in, you know, more housing. We're actually going to grow the businesses per your new plan, and you know, we're going to be able to keep the assessed mill levies flat. I think it's a great pitch for the city to be able to make in terms of the kind of people we want to draw to the community. So again, we applaud and thank the support that we were given by the patrons in the cities on that development.
And thank you again for giving us the opportunity to come here and share information about the school district, and we do look forward to working with you. And I think there are some cost savings by creating benefit districts and joint projects.
Thanks. Well, at this point, would like to just open this up for a little bit of discussion. We've got an opportunity to coming up as far as the CPAC that Cheryl was talking about. Each of the council members, as well as myself, we've submitted names of local residents to help steer this. But when we started doing some of the visioning stuff, we had business leaders that were involved last fall, and actually this spring we even met with leaders from the faith community. But we want to get the help and support from the Board of Education if there are people that are interested and or willing to possibly serve, or maybe designated patrons that you might want to see appointed to the CPAC as well. We want to have a well-rounded view of not just our citizens, but also whether it's elected officials or maybe people that help serve, whether it's on committees or boundary committees, site committees, things of that nature. So I know some of you are actual inside the boundaries Gardner residents, isn't that correct?
I would not be, no.
Well,
Yes, we are.
I think some of you are, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, I am,
so
yes.
Brad, you are? And Teresa?
No.
No? Mary?
No, I'm not.
No? Oh, okay.
Chris, what is the timeline that you're looking to formulate the committee?
Well, we're looking to get invitations out pretty quick.
Okay.
Because the next part of the process is going to gear up starting later this month or next month?
October 14th would be the first meeting, and we're looking to get the formal invites out this week.
Okay, great.
And yeah, I made that invitation back when we opened up Grand Street, and I realized that was a little late in coming, but between spring elections, your new board members didn't get seated until July, and then people being overtaken by their schedules in summertime. But I'm certainly glad that you guys were able to come today. So I would certainly be interested in, and it doesn't, we don't have to have people that are actually community members of Gardner proper, but you do have some Gardner community members that are already serving on the board. So, and then it would give you guys an opportunity to have dialogue and bring ideas to these planning committee meetings. I mean, is that something that you all would be interested in?
Well, I think so. Why don't you let us kind of take that back and discuss internally with us the best way to sponsor and support that activity. But I think that's definitely something that we want to do. I mean, like tonight's a good indication. I mean, definitely raising the awareness of that committee on what we've been doing and where we're going as a district, I think will help them with the development of that plan. So we definitely want to help and participate.
Do you have any idea of how often you plan on meeting or the time so that someone has that information on which to make a decision?
We will probably, do we have a schedule from the consultant, Mike, in terms of the number of meetings they'll conduct?
Yeah, there are about 5.
For the year?
The first one would happen on 14th, and then that's over the course of about a year.
Okay, great.
10 months.
Are they just a couple hours, all-day planning sessions? What do you have in mind?
They are probably 90 minutes. We expect 1 to 2 hours per meeting. Actually, not all of those meetings will be 1 to 2 hours. Some of those are just attending other meetings, but the time commitment is about 1 to 2 hours per meeting for probably 3 of those meetings. Those are simpler, and there's some preparation time.
But I think most of those meetings as well were planned for evening events for those folks that
Yes.
obviously
Yes.
had different
Good point.
jobs than
Yes.
than places on the CPAC.
And they have to be city, in the city.
The people that we chose are all residents of the city, but I think from the school board, it would be great to have any participation. So,
Do you want board members and administration? Do you want other types of staff? How many would you like?
Well, I would certainly like to have administration being able to support, but the CPAC meetings are more about the citizens engaging with the consultants from Chicago. Yeah, and I think that's the CPAC function. Cheryl, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean,
That's correct.
This is more, certainly more about getting the pulse of the people in the community as opposed to staff from any of the governmental agencies.
Yes.
It's something that's going to be a little bit more formalized and in-depth than there's been in, well, period, I think is probably a better way to describe it. I know they've done something in the past, but the way that this group puts it together and the way that they do engage in the type of questions that they're going to answer, the direction they want to build from, it's going to be different, I think, than anything that the city's been through before. So having someone from the school board or from the organization on that side, I think will help with pieces of that and input that maybe a lot of folks won't be able to share and guide. So I think that'd be a great opportunity for that.
Okay. I think it sounds fun.
Yeah, I also think the list of people, at least that I've seen, which we've all seen, is pretty diverse as far as, I mean, you're going to have people at different stages in their life, and I think that it's going to naturally tie into, a lot of the conversations is going to tie into things with the schools, just because you have families.
Great.
So
I think we welcome the invite, and like I said, we'll work and come back to you with, and be glad to support that.
Okay. We're also going to be doing some strategic visioning for the city as well. I mean, the comprehensive plan is a portion of that, but you know, that has more to do with, I don't want to belittle the comprehensive plan, it has more to do with land use than it does actual economic development in a going fishing kind of way.
Okay.
For lack of a better term, but we're going to have some strategic visioning for the city as well, which we'd also welcome assistance from, and whether it's the same people or whether it's different people, we would certainly welcome that. We want to have develop a plan not just for how we're going to use the land, but how we're going to attract people here. Try and target the kind of business that we want to see move here. Kind of try to influence the kind of rooftops that we want to see built here. I think all these things are important, especially when if we're not careful and if we're not working together. Having a big industrial development on our southwest border there, you know, the tail could be wagging the dog in pretty short order if we don't develop a good plan and then exercise discipline in following it.
Well, I think we would definitely like to proceed. I mean, one of the biggest interests we have is in the development of land is what's going in around our schools. So, you know, we definitely want to participate in that. Feel free to reach out to Dr. Gilhouse and myself for any support on the different committees that you'll be forming, because we definitely have vested interest in that.
Okay. Okay.
And there again, that, you know, that doesn't matter if it's residents or board members or actually you know, people that are, you know, patrons of the school district.
Are the meetings similar to the other committee as far as time schedule, or?
No, it's
as far as more meetings, as far as longer term, as far as over a year for the first one. Are we talking long term years, or are we talking
the rest of your life?
That's what we're talking.
That one's going to be a little, and it stands to reason that that could be more of an ongoing.
Sure, that's kind of my figure was, but I wanted to make sure.
Well, personally, I think I would envision the comprehensive plan as a living document. I think it needs to be something that needs to be continually worked on.
Sure.
Regardless, you know, we have a time with the Levine folks from Chicago, but after that, it's up to us to continue the work of staying to that plan, and that is going to require collaboration, I believe.
Well, and it's statutorily we have to review it and then reapprove it, I guess, on a. And Tori, maybe you.
I want to think it's 2 years.
Yeah, it's a biennial. It's a biennial basis. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's a point well taken as well. I think that the other thing that I wanted to mention is, you know, in the lead up to the bond issue and the school site being selected, and in that I mean, Christy was on the council at the time, and Larry and I joined right after the last meeting that the two entities had together. And I know that the school district staff was working with city staff on a pretty consistent basis about site selection and things of that nature. The one thing that I think that the city would like to offer and the city council would like to offer is our assistance to you as you continue to grow. We might have got caught a little unawares last time when it was getting down to the time to be making decisions about approving support for a project, and we hadn't really been involved in the site selection to that point. Now we had very qualified staff. Brian just replaced David Green, who retired after a long career in public works, and I know he was our point person for the school district. But yeah, when it comes to projects that are going to require the kind of investment that the city council is going to have to approve, I think we are only too willing to offer ourselves to whatever might be coming next for the school district. And considering the way that the city keeps growing, I would imagine that there's probably plans in the formative stages somewhere for whatever you're going to have to do next, or am I thinking too many steps ahead?
Well, I think we've just gone through the two major additions through the support of the community with the recent bond. I think we're anticipating that that's going to last us, I wouldn't say dozens of years, but for the near term. And I think that's the reason we want to collaborate with you on the development of your plan, because that'll help give us insight as to some of the timing that we would expect to see for that growth. But I mean, we know we're going to have to continue to grow. We're going to be looking at an addition to the high school probably within yet the next 5 years, 5-6 years, because we're just going to grow. And we'll need that addition. I mean, the MAC that we've adding on, the DAC that we've done, the expansion that we've done, is only just the start. Because you all know that the high school's got to grow. You know, there's things that we want to do there that would allow us to get kids even more involved. Because as you get larger as a district, student involvement is how you keep the kids out of trouble. So we'll definitely want to work with you on the planning of that, and then insight to your plans will help us understand the impacts on the growth. But we know for sure that we're probably going to see, you know, continued expansion at the high school level.
Do we have enough room at that campus to accommodate a 1/3 increase in the size of the high school, which is probably what's coming, because you're going to have at least a 40%, 50% increase in student population at the high school in the next 6 years?
I'm going to back up maybe a step here, and you know, I think what the board would probably decide is, as we've done with other scopes of bond projects, is to have community input, and ultimately it is a committee that makes that decision. I think Mr. Grinnell is right. What he's looking at is operational cost. I think there are probably some people in this community that may think a second high school is what they want, and that's ultimately the community's decision. However, economically, to staff that with the reduced funding from the state is where there would be some real challenges, because you're looking at hiring custodial, food service, administration, librarian, expo classes, not to mention the teachers themselves. So it's not about building the facility, it's about staffing the facility, and those are operational costs. So when you talk about adding on to a building, many of those staff are already there. So economically, it's advantageous for this community should they decide to add on. They may choose not to do that. As far as room, yes, the board had the foresight in this last bond to buy 22 acres to the south of the high school for further expansion, because where the expansion would likely take place would be out to the east where the practice fields are now. So we would need additional practice fields to take the place of those. And I don't want to speak for the board members here. I'm just looking at it from an economical perspective, but the space is available if that's the decision that the board and the community want to go.
And there's no anticipated, what I'm thinking is an additional bond issue that may be required to do that construction. I'm assuming that for capital
absolutely.
improvement perspective, you'd have to have another bond issue.
Yes.
And
That's how we fund the development. sure.
exactly. So the question is, how are you going to be able to keep the mill levies the way they are? Because here's my concern, and I'll be perfectly honest. My concern for the future growth, and it ties into our comprehensive plan, our flexibility to be able to finance our own capital expenses within our plan going down 5, 10, 15 years down the road is, you know, right now 2 out of every 3 cents of an individual's property taxes are going to the school district in terms of the mill levy, and it's constraining to a certain extent the city's ability to be able to raise funds for capital projects ourselves. And we know what the situation is, and of course economic development plays into that. We've got to have economic development to keep the burden off of our citizens, but right now an additional bond issue, typically when you issue bonds, you have to look at a mill levy increase because you have to pay for the bonds. Now I understand our finance people have done a very good job in USD 231 to keep that mill levy under control, but at some point, you know, you're going to hit a certain financing wall, and we don't know what interest rates are going to be on bonds 2 and 3 years down the road when we'll be looking to pursue a bond issue. So I guess from that perspective, and this is where I think there was a little miscommunication or lack of communication between USD 231 and the City Council for Gardner when we pursued when USD 231 pursued the $75 million bond issue. There was not a lot of communication as to how that would affect city finances. And I think that needs to take place. That discussion needs to take place because it's going to affect our ability, our flexibility when it comes to financing capital projects, which are greatly needed. I think all of us would agree at this table that we need to be able to manage our own infrastructure in Gardner.
Steve, no
yes.
disrespect intended.
No.
There was lots and lots of communication between your city staff and the school district for almost a year. I think that Mayor Morrow pointed out that maybe that communication didn't filter back to the city council.
That's exactly right.
And that's unfortunate. But you'd said USD 231 didn't communicate, and we did communicate, and we wanted the involvement, and we had the involvement, but there must have been a breakdown in communication between your staff. And the last thing we want to do is put you in a position where you're unaware of where we're doing development because there are associated infrastructure costs.
Well, and I would also add, I feel pretty confident that I was well aware as a council person what was happening. So we had a lot of discussion. We projected we were going to have to raise mill. We talked about making sure that the public was aware of that. We didn't have to do that either. So I feel pretty confident. Now, I do agree. I think that could be more collaboration up front, and I think it goes both ways. I mean, I can remember when I was first on council, one of the most controversial things that first came up was truck routes through the town and the fact that the school district wasn't involved in that. So I think that there's these types of forums will help facilitate that. I don't know if it needs to be a large group or, you know, if it's a subset of this, but I think that there is a lot of opportunity. I think the more we can collaborate in front of things versus waiting to the back end, the better we'll all be.
Well, I think we're in huge agreement with that comment. I was around during the conversations as well, and there was a lot of communication that was going on during that time period. But I think we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here. I mean, we just went out for a bond election. We're building 2 beautiful schools, and we just reduced the mill levy by 3 mills. Find another district in the state of Kansas that can go out and do a $72 million bond and then turn around and reduce your mills by 3 mills and not have a foreseeable increase over the next 5 years, because assessed values are staying steady and they're now starting to rise again, which is great news for all of us. I mean, you're wanting to bring talent to town. Well, maintaining assessed values is huge, but having, you know, incredible schools is another thing that will help the development here. But I guess the point is, I don't want to get so far ahead of ourselves, because it is growth that spurs the bond. So there will be more businesses, more, you know, housetops to tax and bring that money in. And if we're doing it smartly, I would say there's probably a good chance that we won't see a mill increase because of the added growth, because that's what's pushing us to add those facilities. So I don't want to get too far ahead of here.
You're correct. And if I could just follow up, the highest that the mill levy would have gone up with the $72.9 million bond for 1 year would have been 2.97 mills, which is under 3 mills. So when you consider that we were fortunate enough to be able to drop the mill levy by 3.4, if this community would decide to build another high school with the DAC, I can tell you that in today's dollar amounts, that's probably an $85 to $90 million project. If they decide to add on to the high school, obviously that would be considerably less because a lot of those things are already in place. So I agree that I do not foresee in 4 or 5 years, if our assessed valuation grows at all, a necessary increase in our mill levy for a smaller bond.
Yeah, the other thing that kind of blew me away as a board member, I run a small public company. Raising finances is not easy to do, especially over the last 5 years. What Dr. Gilhouse and Jeremy was able to do by bringing in basically the finance companies that were looking at creating the bond structure for us and educating them as to what we had in terms of value proposition, we drove them around town. We showed them the fine cities of both Edgerton and especially Gardner. And it had a huge impact on not only increasing our bond rating, but getting us bond rates that were unbelievable, record lows, including rebates back on those bonds, which is like cash in our pocket. So we would be more than happy to collaborate maybe on some of the approaches that we took there, because you will be facing, you know, bond issues and capital outlay. So I think it's a great opportunity to team with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Laura sits on the finance, what's it called? School finance committee. Okay. Simple enough.
For many years.
For many years, and yeah, our finance team's done a really good job. We've refinanced a lot of debt and saved a lot of money, and seen some of that same. I mean, the revolving credit facility we got from KDAG to do the wastewater treatment plant with Edgerton was 1 point something. I mean, it was ridiculously low. So a lot of opportunity right now, and I didn't want to get the cart too far out in front of the horse, because what I really want to do is let's take it a step at a time. Let's start talking about what we're doing next, which what we're doing is the comprehensive plan, and we've talked about that. But I would come back to whatever's coming down next for the school district. And what Christy said really probably resonates. I mean, when city staff is preparing information for us, or school district staff is preparing it for you, and I think it's incumbent upon us to ask them about how it's going to affect the other entity,
yes.
So that we can get some input and some feedback going back and forth in advance. The issue with the truck routes is a perfect example, because I don't think anybody really wanted to see big aggregate haulers going up and down Waverly Road at 3:15.
Bicycles and semis, not a good mix. Or high school drivers.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Could you guys talk to us about the decisions we make for in terms of economic development, or actually any policy decision, and how it impacts your bottom line and your effort to make the finances go further? I mean, I understand somewhat how the financing formulas work, and I know that you guys, there's a state aid per student, and that comes from, I think, 20 mills, right, that goes to the state.
Correct.
And then it gets distributed throughout the state of Kansas, and I think currently the Johnson County area produces something like 40% of the revenue. Is that right, or is it even higher?
Another percentage. Jeremy, Johnson County, 1%.
I know we give more than we get in return, in other words. And then I know there's a component that obviously the bond issue component of the taxes, and then the local option budget, which I assume we're maxed out on. Is that correct, or?
No, we're actually one under that 31% you can go to. We're at 30 though, and then Larry, you're correct. Then there's capital outlay, which is 8 mills.
Okay. So, for instance, as we look back at something that was sold to us, and that is a 50%, I think it was 50% abatement for the Coleman Distribution Center. And, for years we've heard 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. Well, in your case, 100% of fallow land means no kids, right? No additional kids to educate on the same amount of money, other than the per capita, per person aid that you get. So in the case of a company like that, did you see an increase? I mean, is that where the growth came, is from that one development? Or, I mean, from my perspective, we haven't had any real home building for really 6 years, 7 years. And right now it's starting to trickle in at 40 in a year, I think, roughly 40 new home permits a year. And yet somehow the district grew. So did we grow with more, bigger families? Did we grow with
Our
more
students, our student population.
Right. I mean, was it brought in by one industry, multiple industries, people coming here because they?
I can't answer that, but what I can answer is that we had our second largest kindergarten class ever entering this year was 483, and if you go back to 2010, we had 488, and our graduating classes are smaller. This last year we graduated 316 students, so 316, 480 coming in. You've got growth that just naturally takes place from classes coming up. And those of you who've been in Gardner for a while, or maybe had kids or graduated in the last 10 years or something, they may have graduated with a class of 220. So that's the biggest change, is the lower grade levels.
Yeah, but
Well, and younger people, I mean, the demographics of Gardner have changed. I mean, our demographics now, the average age is 34 years old.
Right.
So that naturally incites, without any change in residential housing or increase in housing, that naturally incites a younger, school-aged type
Everybody moves here
environment.
and has their first kids. I mean,
Right.
it's just what happens. You buy your first house because it's a little bit less expensive than you start paying.
Gardner's a starter community. I think that's how we've been for years, is that young families come here, newly married people come here, affordable housing, they come here, they have kids. We've had 2 kids since we moved here in 2005. They're going to be in kindergarten in a couple of years. We didn't have any more houses built, but we're going to have a larger family. So,
But Larry, the other thing that we're seeing is the result of the recession, and we have the largest. Most of our schools are very close to 50% on free and reduced lunches, and on top of that, what we've seen is 3 families in a home, 4 families in a home. We have kids that come to school. The mother and 2 kids lives in a room in a house with 3 other families. I mean, that's what we've seen really have happened to us, is a lot of doubling up of financially stricken families.
And your multifamily housing obviously impacts our growth.
I was just going to say, I don't know if all of you know this, but I worked for the school district several years ago and was director of health services, and I saw it frequently, especially the apartment complexes. There were 2, 3, and 4 families living in one apartment. I mean, we're talking 12 people living in one tiny, apartment. So you have, 6, 7 kids coming out of, a 1-bedroom apartment. And
So from a financing perspective, a $65,000, $75,000 apartment that's generating taxes based on lease revenue is probably not as advisable as a $200,000 home.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Say 40?
Apartments
I'm
do us no good.
40 years old. That's true. Yeah, in the past, I think the last I heard, Mike, I think you mentioned we have about 10 years worth of developable lots, 400 lots.
Last year, we issued 48 building permits for single-family homes. This year, we're on pace to probably issue 15% more than that. I'm not really sure.
But in the heydays, they were 378.
That's why I thought the number was awfully low. But it makes sense.
I think we're getting towards the right direction now here. It's the commercial development.
It's the balance.
5% of our tax base comes from rooftops.
Yes.
So if we can continue to focus together on whatever is going to bring the type of businesses that the community wishes, is what's going to help our tax base.
We need the balance. We need the appropriate balance now between residential and non-residential. We have the residential, so we clearly need the.
But I think you've got to. I mean, I guess I agree with you. If you have $9.50 an hour jobs, you're not going to have single-family homes anymore. You're going to have mostly apartments. And so I guess the question I have to ask is, in the ideal world, as we basically start with a blank canvas and develop a city the way we want it, what's the ideal?
I'm going to answer that question, and it's probably not going to answer what you're wanting to hear, but it's the truth. We're going to educate all kids when they come, and we get them from all types of backgrounds, and that's just what we're here to do. And I would feel uncomfortable identifying this or that to say we want this type of child or that type of child, because however we get them, we're going to educate and do the best we can.
But no, Larry, if you want to bring in a subdivision that's got $500,000 homes and you can start selling them right and left, we'll take them.
I mean, is that, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that not beneficial? I mean, as long as we have people here, when someone of greater means moves in, doesn't it actually increase isn't it the tide that lifts all boats?
That goes without
I mean,
saying.
don't you get a benefit from?
I think it's more of a business. I think we look at more businesses, look at, I've been told for years, and I've not been a member of this community, but a little under 10 years, but the crowds that I hear is the almost, and I know most everybody here on this council is new, is the almost anti-business council really was. It's like they didn't want to grow, they wanted to keep it a small community. And some of that is absolutely, it's wonderful, but when we look at it from a bigger picture, we feel like there's a lot of it that personally myself, we see that it's not, being business friendly, and we feel like this is what you guys are reaching out for. This is great, but we feel like that, looking at business is what I'm talking about. You're looking at more, business. If you're talking about, housing income, we're talking about more. I'm thinking more. You're talking about business. Is that correct? Or are you talking about?
Well, the way I see it is, I mean, people that will raise that tide have to come because of the schools, right? Whether they're young families, intermediate age families, or seniors and high school families, they're coming here because of schools. And you also have a component where some things come here because the land is vacant, and we offer tax abatements. And so I guess what I'm suggesting is, how do we work together so that we make sure that we get the most bang for the buck for every acre that's developed?
I think something that would be beneficial is a lot of the people that move here are starting their families and they have starter homes. And then when they move further along in their careers and they're able to afford that next level and they're ready to move, for us to have that in Gardner, I think it would be beneficial, because we've had those children in our school system for 4 or 5 years and their families, and we'd love to have them stay. So if they are moving to another community because the type of housing they're looking for exists there, I would agree with you from that perspective.
So
I just didn't want to come across as some type of an elitist.
Yeah, but that's what we're here for. I mean, not to be elitist, but we have a blank canvas. That's what the comprehensive plan is about, and it's developed the community that we want. And it's not. I mean, as everyone knows, I'm an advocate for the people that are here. As far as I'm concerned, if more people come, it's because we're doing good things. If more businesses come to serve those people, that's good too. But I don't think we should, say we'll take whatever comes and we'll take the low-hanging fruit. 50% abatement, again, is better than getting 0 property taxes off of an agricultural piece of land.
Well, I think we're in agreement with that, but it kind of goes back to my original question of the collaboration with the county and Edgerton as well, is because if we stick out like a sore thumb, they're going to mushroom around us. Yes, and there's part of the district that it's a win-win for us. If the development's in Edgerton or it's here, it's a win for the district. But what I think we benefit from is if we can get more of a collaborative effort where they might be open to lowering, instead of 75-25, maybe it's more like 60-40 or whatever, because the growth's going to come, right? So the question is, can we work together to create a win-win there?
Well, see, and I think we would like to see more collaboration with Edgerton, and I don't think that I've had conversations with Commissioner Topliker and Chairman Eiler about coming out for future meetings, and I know that we've got their support and probably the support of other members on the county commission. So, but that being the case, we're not gonna get all the planning for the city done this evening. I would kind of like to see if there's any other opportunities for collaboration that any of you see that the school district and the city can do together.
Well, I think you're filling our platter up pretty quick with your plans currently. So.
Okay. Well, and I can tell you that we've. Cheryl's started looking already to how it is that maybe we can look to increase our internet offerings locally. Not that we don't love the fine people at CenturyLink, and not that we want an uneven playing field. We want to have a nice, even playing field for everybody, but I think that everybody would like to see the competition, and I think the benefits of the
Google Fiber.
Google Fiber, but the technology is what I was looking for. Would be a big benefit to the school district and a big boon for the citizens. So.
For your enterprise, we make it all better. Make everybody raise standards and everything.
I hate to beat a dead horse here, but I guess one thing I was getting at here is that in the past, when the district saw the development that the city was considering, especially if it was an abated parcel of land, they oftentimes would come here, either the director of operations or director of finance would come here and say, you're going to kill us with this. You're going to have too many people on one side of Moonlight. Too many. There's no way, as I recall, one of the arguments was, there's no way you can keep a 55 and older community of attached townhomes from not having children, which in the end adds also to the burden of the people that in the tax base that we already have. So I guess what I'm asking is just a final plea is don't be shy about telling us what things that we're considering are going to do to you, because without that voice, you may not like what you get.
Well, I think the key is doing that up front. I mean, there's no reason why we need to have the operations director come into council meeting and speak and catch people off guard. I mean, all of that should happen long before it gets to that point, and everybody should understand, no matter what the decision is, that this is the impact, negative or positive, and have vetted that.
Well, and that's
Council.
That's why these meetings make good sense, is because if you are planning to do something and we're all sitting around the table and we can give you our viewpoint of it and what it could do to us.
Christy, does this have to do with that Moonlight development expansion over there that was 2 or 3 years ago? Is that what you're kind of referencing?
That's the one. That's the one I remember.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about.
I don't remember who came, but they came and said it could be very impactful.
Yeah, I'm talking about Waverly Point specifically, as one of the things that happened when they were looking at putting low-income housing in, and I'm sure there's been other things, but with abatements in general. I mean, for instance, we had the Zimmer Properties, which is no secret, come and ask for an abatement. That was very early. The city kind of put some information together. What would be nice is, as a next step, we should fully understand the impact to the school district.
I just want you to know that we had numerous conversations with Stuart Fairburn and Melissa about Waverly Point and about the Moonlight development too. So I'm not sure why it's not getting back. It's putting you in a difficult position, but I'm sharing with you that we would never ever have a director come to one of your city council meetings until we had extensive conversations with your administrative staff about that.
And that may very well be, and hopefully, that's a lesson learned. So,
and we've changed some processes as far as that goes as well. As we get weekly updates from the administration that cover all the different departments, and actually in the upcoming one, even to cover electric. So, we're able to stay up on things in a way that we hadn't been even when Larry and I first got on the council. So, but the other thing is, I would be glad to have ongoing meetings like this, but also if Christy mentioned earlier, even if there's some subgroups that get together just to keep each other apprised. I think that's important too. At the end of the day, board members and council members were the folks that have to be making the votes on these issues.
I think at least regular quarterly summits such as this would be helpful. I'm just throwing it out there. There's no such thing as too much communication. I think that there's such a thing as too little communication. And even if it's because of, and I understand your response, but if the council doesn't hear it, then we don't know. And so and maybe that's just an internal thing that we've addressed already, but I think that hearing it from both sides at the top levels and having that summit once every quarter or twice a year would help the communication situation, especially with long-term strategic projects such as our comprehensive plan and a potential high school expansion. Those are big things that I think we need to have face-to-face on.
Anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
No, thank you for the invite.
Well, thanks so much for coming. Sacrificing an hour and 45 minutes on a night when you should have been home watching network sitcoms. But thanks for coming. I think that we've got a basis to start planning for the future together.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you.